Hey folks, this is Kelani. There's been a bit of buzz recently about patch 7.2 and the perceived lack of content, while Blizzard and plenty of other gaming news websites are calling it the largest patch WoW has ever had. That's a bit of a weird contrast, so let's dig a bit deeper and see what we missed and whether patch 7.2 really was the largest patch we've ever seen. So 7.2 consisted of quite a good chunk of content, but not all of it has been accessible. I'm assuming the Tomb of Sargeras raid counts as 7.2 content, which kinda tips the scale in their favour. The tomb is all ready to be raided, we just have to wait until it opens up proper. The frustrating thing about that is we'll see our next patch, 7.2.5, before the tomb opens. That next patch will bring in all the class changes for the next tier of raiding, so it should come before the raid actually opens. A new raid tier is always some of the most anticipated content. It's what brings a lot of players back to WoW. I know a lot of people who came back when 7.2 hit and were asking me if I was excited for the next raid in a few weeks. They all seemed surprised and sad that they'd actually have to wait nearly 3 months before the raid would be available to play, when the patch itself is called the Tomb of Sargeras. So sure, if the raid we'll see in a month and a bit is included in the overall content of 7.2, that gives it a big boost already. There's a few other pieces of content which we won't see for a little bit, but which are probably under the patch 7.2 umbrella. The first of which is the class mounts we'll all get in a few more weeks. Whenever the campaign on the Broken Shore finishes, we'll unlock the class-specific quests to go ahead and hunt down our perfect companion. Each class gets their own special mount, and there's a few different colours which are supposed to match the class's different specs, which makes sense as you wouldn't really want a super shiny holy owl bird as a Shadow Priest. Or would you? These class mounts might not seem like a lot, but when you have 12 classes and you create an individual quest line and actual mounts for each, that soon adds up to a bunch of content. You just won't actually get to see all of it if you don't play all 12 classes. It's really nice to get a few class-specific things to do, but I wonder if it's worth it when you consider we might have been able to get 12 times the content if everyone could play the same parts. This also happened with the Mage Tower class challenges. In case you haven't noticed, they were more classes challenges than class challenges. Quite a few specs shared a challenge, and it was tweaked in different ways for each of them, but they still had the same challenge. All tanks had the same challenge, and all healers except disciplined priests shared the same horrors as well. Even though it's not quite as specific as the class mounts, that would still be quite a bit of content you wouldn't get to see if you didn't play a good range of characters, which is a little sad if you think about it, especially considering Legion hasn't been the most alt-friendly expansion to date. Saying that, we did get a very good mix of stuff, but imagine what it would have taken to get challenges for each spec of each class. That's a bunch more work, so we would either have lost other content available to us in 7.2, or have had to wait for some of it. That could mean a delay on the class mounts until after the Tomb of Sargeras, or maybe patch 7.2 would have been delayed by over a month. Sadly, game content doesn't grow on trees, which means the dev team does have limitations on how much they can pump out and how quickly we can get it, which is always going to be a shame. Even though special class challenges would have been epic, I don't think I would like to pay the price for them and would happily settle for some more shared challenges instead. As you can see, some of the content available in 7.2 isn't actually all that available unless you play all the classes in the game. I play my hunter, so I won't get to experience the other class mount quests or most of the Mage Tower challenges. Actually, the only alt I've played much recently was my Mage as Frost, which actually has the exact same challenge as my Marksman Hunter, so that was weirdly interesting and annoying. I guess I also experienced the healer challenge by proxy, as my wife was very vocal about her opinions while working her way through it. Apart from that, there's a lot of content going to waste on me because I only really play one class, so to me it feels like there's a lot less content to play than there actually is. So let's talk about the content we can all enjoy and experience. The Broken Shore started out with a lot of exciting new stuff, but quickly became a little boring. That has a few things to do with how the zone is set up, but it definitely feels a little empty now we've gotten used to how it works. Maybe it was a bit too front-loaded without much follow-up, and it certainly didn't help that they started nerfing things left, right and centre, but the content is still there. World quests, gambling chests, nether shard gambling for Arcano crystals, that sort of thing. Don't forget to keep building the buildings for the buffs of varying power too. The campaign that we're gradually getting through has been a bit slow up until now, but it might start to get more interesting as we near the tomb opening. If you want to check out how many weeks we have left on the campaign, just look at your Breaching the Tomb achievement. Every sub-achievement there should be a week until we're done, so there's room for it to ramp up and give us a surprise before it ends. Even if we've only got a little bit to do each week, I'm sure it will total to a decent amount of content over the entire duration. We also now have access to the Legion invasions across the Broken Isles. These kind of fell the same way as the Broken Shore. They became a little old a little too fast. The nice thing about the invasions is that there's currently no plans to stop them, so they're going to be around for a lot longer than just patch 7.2. I assume that when we get our next big content patch and head to Argus, they might stop, as we should have pushed the Legion back enough to fend off these rampant attacks. They'll still provide a bit of change every now and then, as well as a good source of nether shards. There's also the Cathedral of Eternal Night, which people seem to be avoiding on Mythic Plus, but that's another story. A new dungeon to romp around is always welcome, and we got quite a few changes to the dungeon system to keep them relevant. That might not seem as new or fresh as a new dungeon, but it will keep us running around some Mythic Plus dungeons for a little longer. The addition of the Broken Shore also came with flying, if you consider that content. We also have a few interesting ways to play PvP and Battlegrounds with the addition of Brawls, which was only a matter of time really. Blizzard also gave pet battles a bit of love and introduced the very first pet battle dungeon. Now the problem with those last two is that if you don't PvP or aren't interested in pet battles, I guess they don't really give you much. But I would hope people who don't usually play that content will at least give it a try with the new changes and additions. You might actually love pet battles, who knows? When you lay it out like this, you can see we did get quite a bit of meat in patch 7.2. It's just different cuts of meat, and everyone is picking and choosing. But it's not entirely their fault. There's a bunch of class-specific content which you probably won't get to see. This brings up an interesting topic. Everyone always says they miss the class content from previous expansions like Vanilla and the super special quest lines to unlock weapons like Rock Delar and Benediction, or the Greenfire quest for Warlocks in Mists of Pandaria. These examples were very difficult when they were relevant content, and the rewards were very prestigious, so it's understandable why a good chunk of players would like to see the same thing again. The class challenges filled in a little bit, but I think it would have been a little more prestigious if the challenges were scaled like the Proving Grounds used to be. That would prevent players from outgearing and simply overpowering the challenges, which I kind of did. The problem is, once again, doing something for each class would take a bunch of time. I see a few different ways it could pan out. Would you rather have the content be accessible to everyone and have more general challenges that everyone can take part in and get potentially 12 times the content? Keep things the way they were with the Mage Tower challenges in that we have something for everyone, but quite a few classes and specs are overlapping a bit. Or we could have a rotation of classes, so some get something fun one patch, and the others get their bits and bobs in different patches, or we could maybe have something different for every single spec. But we'd probably only get that for an entire patch, which would probably leave us feeling worse about lack of content than we do right now. Personally, I'd love to have more challenges, even if it means that they're the same for every DPS. It would probably be a nightmare to balance, but if we had scaled item levels or stats like how PvP works, it could be quite exciting to compete with the other specs in the same challenge. I'm always up for more content because I play this game way too much, so the more I have to chew through, the happier I will be. I'm definitely curious to see what course Blizzard will take in 7.3, and the future, whether they will focus on class content or content that everyone can access. The dev team has said they felt the content wasn't planned out all too well for 7.2, so I hope they're happier with how they handle future patches. So, the claim that this patch was the largest we've had might actually be the case. The content is just spread out quite a bit. If you don't play a lot of classes, it's going to feel a little empty compared to someone who plays multiple characters. Thankfully, 7.2 is a pretty good place in Legion to level up and try out new characters, as it's a bit of a break until the next raid opens up for play. If you're feeling a little bored and feel like you haven't got much to do, maybe leveling another character might keep you busy until 7.25 launches. But that's it for this video. If you have any questions or queries, please leave them in the comment section below. info and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, or hop on over to Discord. We have a server at discord.gg/Kelani, great place to come ask questions or just hang out. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.